Hey everyone, it's Brain Farts again here, aka Thomas, and today I'm going to do a bit of a history video on ancient Roman religion. So, why am I dressed like this? This is just to demonstrate what ancient Roman priests would look like. Ancient Roman priests were drawn from the patrician, i.e., the upper classes, the ruling class, and often the same people who would be making decisions in government were also often the priests. And in fact, the high priesthood in ancient Rome was an elected office under the Roman Republic until it was pretty well permanently taken on by the Roman emperors once the empire began under Octavian Augustus Caesar. So, basically, how the priest would So anyway, so basically, how the priests would dress was that they would take their toga, pull it back over their heads, like I am right now, and that was basically the vestments of the priests when they would do the religious offices. So anyway, this is going to be 10 things, X Roman numeral 10 things about ancient Roman religion that you probably didn't know. First of all, number one. Uh, how the ancient Romans would offer sacrifice to their gods. For starters, yes, I would be. I let's say I'm the Roman priest. I would be the one offering sacrifice in the temple. Not in the temple. That's number three. You'll find out. But I would all be offering sacrifice. But let's say we're sacrificing a cow or a pig. I would actually have slaves set aside to do the actual killing and dirty work. And once they've cut the animal's throat and it's been killed, I would then take it and offer some of it to the gods, and a lot of the food would then be distributed among everyone as a communal meal. The rich people, rich and powerful, would get bigger shares, which is kind of contrary to how we would do things today, where the poor get the main share. Number two, the ancient Romans, at least based on the evidence what we found in Pompeii, really liked non-Roman gods. In fact, some of those popular deities that have been found in Pompeii, based on the sheer numbers of statuary and images of deities that they found, were actually Egyptian deities. And in fact, even in the house of the Emperor Augustus's wife, they found um, frescoes in honor of the Egyptian goddess Isis. In Pompeii, there was a temple to Isis, and she had a major she was part of it, and her worship was part of a major popular mystery cult that was more or less for initiates only. That was quite popular in ancient Rome. And this was, by the way, not instead of the Roman gods. It was in addition to. So they would worship the Roman gods, and they would then also go and worship Isis as well. And number three, how Roman temples worked and how you worship there. First of all, you would not actually go inside a Roman temple. Uh, you would not go inside. The rites of worship would generally take place outside of the temple, and there'd be an altar outdoors, and and the temple itself would just have the image of the deity, some of which were in some rustic community they found in Pompeii were probably very basic, statue wise, and may not even been total statues. Inside the temple, there would be inside the temple is basically a storehouse for votive offerings for the deity, and sometimes, remember, the priests are also the people who are making government decisions. Sometimes in Roman colonies, the governments would meet regularly inside of a temple. Um, number four, the Romans had gods for pretty well everything. Anyway, this is kind of controversial, but for an example, according to Saint Augustine of Hippo, who, to be fair, was rather critical of Roman deities, related that there were Roman deities for flatulence and excrement, farts and poop, basically. Now, there is some debate as to whether or not he was just satirizing how there were gods for literally everything, even the most mundane, minor Um, but there was a Roman god named, I'm probably mispronouncing the name, Januarius, from whom we get the name January, who was the god of doorways and new beginnings. So they had so even something as basic concept as new beginnings, they had a specific god just for that. Um, so for number five, I think I already mentioned it, but in ancient Rome, so long as pretty well, so long so you could follow more than one religion. And many people in ancient Rome, actually, both Romans and the non-Romans actually did. And the Roman religion could be very synchronistic. So, for example, and they would adopt foreign deities into their pantheon, which is the next one. But yeah, but so just keeping on the topic of how you could follow more than a religion. As I said, there is evidence that they would follow Greek philosophy, which kind of like substitute moralistic religion. There was like a civic, there was like, of course, the Roman pantheon. There's evidence of and of course, as I said before, the people worshiping Egyptian deities in Pompeii were probably not Egyptian themselves, and were probably not worshiping Egyptian gods exclusively. So that's something to keep in mind. That we think today of people having what religion do you belong to? In ancient Rome, it was like two or three. And today, for a good comparison, think to help you think of it, would be like, say, Japan today, or China, where you can be a Buddhist or a Confucian and a Taoist, Shinto and Buddhist all at the same time. That was about way how things were done in ancient Rome. There were, of course, notable exceptions to this. Judaism and Christianity, which are, of course, monotheistic religions, only worship one God. Uh, Judaism, because of how ancient it was regarded by the Romans, how ancient it was, and it was already practiced religion when they took Judea, they more or less allowed that to continue. Christianity, not so much, though there were periods in where Christianity was more or less tolerated and allowed. And that didn't necessarily, just because they didn't like Christianity, didn't necessarily mean they disliked, they didn't think the Christian God was necessarily real. I remember one of the histories of cities of Caesarea. One of the ways that the Rome, if I recall correctly, that was a book. One of the reasons the Christians of Rome got their first church, St. Mary and Traverse Day, was because they were competing on the same side between they wanted a Christian church wanted a church there. The Someone else wanted to build a tavern there, or a bar. The Roman authorities at the time there was persecution. They decided, it's probably better for the benefit of the state of Rome if we have a God being worshipped in the site and praying for us, and have people praying for us rather than have another bar. um, have another bar. Um, so so number six, you could actually the Romans would actually have a practice where they would try to get the gods of other religions to trade sign with Rome, and they'd offer them better temples, more elaborate rites, if they would just agree to come and side with Rome. Um, and in fact, I think there was even one case where there was an oracle where the Romans were supposed to bring the goddess Cybele to Rome, aka Magna or the Great Mother, over what is now Turkey, and she was a and she was worshipped by the Romans to an extent. Her cult was kind of a controversial mystery cult. Uh, the priesthood had to be exclusively castrated men, so from what I've heard, um, I have to check my sources this one, so don't quote me on this one. But from what I have heard, it was exclusively castrated men were allowed to be priests. Of that religion, and so they wouldn't allow citizen males to be joined the priesthood of that religion. But they allowed it. Rome brought it to Rome on purpose for the benefit of the state. Um, uh, so, 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 so number seven. Uh, the Romans didn't like all religions. Even if they thought their gods real, there were some religions they disliked excessively. Judaism was kind of mixed. Roman historian Tacitus, and I have read this, openly said that he had wished that the Jewish people had been forcibly did had would have forcefully made to accept the ancient Greek religion rather than their rather than their monotheistic religion. And he despised how like anyone who wanted to join their religion had to disown their old culture, old cults, and old gods before in order to join. And they so Judaism was tolerated and allowed, but I have heard accounts that like when Augustus's son was going through Judea, he intentionally passed by the Jewish temple and refused to worship there, and Augustus was very pleased and proud of him for doing that. So they did not like Judaism. They thought it was did not. They were not too fond of the monotheism. They weren't too fond about Jewish rights, and they how they wouldn't Jews would not observe omens or pacifists. They thought it was very barbaric that they would not leave more or less excessive children out to be abandoned and die if they thought they had too many kids. Uh, that's what Tacitus said. You can look up ancestors about the Jewish people. But not all religions, like Judaism was one. Christianity is quite famous for how the Roman state hated and persecuted the church. Literally, like the first 3 centuries of Christianity are written in the blood of martyrs who died at the hands of Roman authorities. But it wasn't just Judeo-Christian religions that were unpopular. There were also some the cult of Dionysus, for example, was and early on, as it was practiced in Greece anyway, was banned, and there was a because on the grounds that the rites involved lewd behavior and immoral behavior, and whether or not it was accurate, it was banned in Rome upon those grounds. Um, so number 8. Okay, the Romans adopted a lot of Greek gods. Um, a lot of gods were taken from the Greeks. So like Jupiter is Zeus, Juno is Hera, Apollo was just Apollo. He didn't even bother changing the name. There were some distinctly Roman deities. So, for example, um, for example, as I said, the Roman god Januarius was another. Vesta, if I recall correctly, was another one. Um, so number 9. One is fun. Anyone likes the movie Gladiator? Guess what? That was a religious rite in Rome, particularly a funeral rite. Funeral rites in ancient Rome were originally designed. Funeral rites in ancient for elites um, in ancient Rome were funeral rites in ancient Rome. Um, Eventually incorporated um, gladiator fights. It was a way of honoring the dead. So, like two prisoners of war would fight to the death in honor of a member of the Roman elite, and that was what they would do. That was what they would, and that would do that in their honor. Eventually it was known as, in fact, the word for gladiator fight and in Latin in Roman times was menura, meaning basically means memorial or obligation. Um, so so that was basically what the ancient Rome. So gladiator fight, in fact, plays also were part of religious rites, and they had to have so many plays, so many days, and so many gladiator fights, so many days, and there were certain rituals that went with it that were very complex. And if one thing was took off, they had to repeat it. And in fact, many times, a lot of politicians, because gladiator fights were so popular for some reason, uh, a lot of gladiator fights in ancient Rome, um, a lot of times they would break the rules on purpose in order to repeat it in order to get more popularity with the people. And at one point, there were rules about if you put on a menura during the Republican period, you couldn't run for office for another year. Um, and so for number 10, in early periods, ancient Roman religion may have involved human sacrifice. Yes, I'm not joking. No, I'm not joking. So now this would have been much earlier on. So by the time we think of Rome, all the figures think of Rome in popular culture, that was long gone by that point. But like early on, um, so for example, in the Tiber, there's ritual where they would, in order to appease the god of the river Tiber, they would that I remember reading about in one of my. I didn't get to put this in a paper, but it was just really fun, so I'll just say it now. They would take a stick figure and throw it into the Tiber as an appeasement, so that the river wouldn't take away other people trying to cross. It has been theorized and suggested that this may originally it wasn't a stick person they threw, it may have been an actual person they threw into a piece of Tiber. But this was done away with comparatively early on. So like again, so by the time we think of the Roman, so the time we think of Rome in popular culture today, that wasn't being done anymore. So I mean, that's 10 things you probably didn't know about ancient Roman religion. Stay safe, everyone.